Well, that's it, James. The high school sports season is over. I know you and I wait for this moment all season. Can't wait to get a break so we can go off and do gardening or chores with the missus and stuff like that. And then by next week, we're going to be bored to death. We'll have nothing. We don't know what to do with ourselves. So now is the perfect time. Now is like the come down moment where we relax for summer vacation. I know you have plans for summer vacation. What are you going to do this week?
Oh, I'm just gonna head off for and see the Indy 500
Oh,
next
is that
weekend.
all?
Yeah, that's it. That's all.
Yeah. Well, yeah. While you're at the Indy 500, remember me when I'm at the Fort Marcy doing stories about the Santa Fe Fuego, who start their season next week. So
Oh,
think
but they love
think
you there,
fondly of
man.
me.
It's like you got preferred seating status there.
Yeah, well, it's because there's 11 people that go to the game, so it's not that hard to find good quality seating at a Fuego game. Which look, last week we wrapped it up with the high school baseball and track and field and softball tournaments. I was holed up at baseball the entire time, which is great for me because I love baseball. But James, you're at state track and field, which brings us to our two guests today, Raylee Hunt. I think anyone who's been in Santa Fe knows all about her story. Raylee, she's been our athlete of the year twice. We've run out of things to say about her.
Yes.
And then Cy Anderson, probably the best soccer player in the state, who also happens to be really, really fast. You can run really fast on a track. And James, I know you covered both of them. The two of you, welcome. I know you're going through
Yes.
graduation, all that sort of thing. So welcome to the New Mexican Sports Podcast.
Thank you.
James, it's all you, buddy.
All right. We'll take a deep dive into this and everything. So basically, the reason why this is really my choice. Okay, so I was the one that came up with the idea of having these two fine athletes here because of their performance over the last couple of weeks. I think we talked a little bit last week in our podcast with Joey regarding what Raylee did yeah, on her final day of state track. Finishing second in the 800 and then helping the medley relay, make that amazing comeback from I think we estimated it was about 45 meters that you had to overcome in that last 800 meters, and especially in the last 200 meters of that race. Truly remarkable. But I also wanted to bring Cy in here too because I think for me, in my opinion, I think you two had maybe the two most remarkable performances at the state meet, both for the small school and the big schools, just based on what you guys did. For those who haven't read my story, Cy suffered a hamstring injury, not necessarily a muscle injury, but more of a nerve injury, which caused him to run in significant pain over the last couple of weeks. And despite that, you helped the 4x1 set a new 5A record in that event, and then you finished your career off with a gutty 4x4 performance, considering that he and fellow runner Bryce Melton were both suffering from injuries, and yet despite that, they still managed to set a new state record, overall record, I think, as a matter of fact, in that event to cap their career and everything. And so that was kind of the reason why I wanted to bring them both in here, is just to talk a little bit more about that, and really kind of celebrate their accomplishments, for everybody else to see. So first of all, congratulations to both of you for doing that.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. I'll start first. I hope you don't mind, Rayleigh. I'll start with Cy first because I think his is the most recent and everything. But I know we talked about this over the weekend, but just kind of talk again about what the last 3 weeks have been like for you, as far as just what you were dealing with.
It's been pretty interesting. I mean, the injury started off pretty tame. I just took a week off just to make sure I was fully recovered. And just right before district, obviously it came back even worse than it was before. So the week leading up to state was pretty stressful. A lot of PT, not only working on physical state, but also my mental state and how I was going to kind of run through the pain. So it's just kind of been a lot of prep, and then also just a lot of resting because I wasn't able to run much during the week.
Yeah. What did they have a specific diagnosis? What it was that you suffered?
I think it was a strained nerve, just like in the back of my hamstring.
Okay. Okay. Wow. That sounds pretty painful on in and of itself. But can you kind of describe to people what that's like when you have to train, or even when you have to, get yourself ready to run?
Yeah, it's definitely kind of hard on your brain just because you have an injury. I've never experienced any sort of tear or pull in my hamstring, But if I were to tell you what the pain feels like, I'm guessing that's kind of what it feels like. So just knowing that the pain's there while you're running, um, and you can feel it even whenever you're walking is definitely something that's you kind of have to overcome and know that even though it's going to hurt, you're still going to be able to run and do your best. So,
So it sounds like you really don't want to move.
yeah, no.
Was that kind of tough? Because I'm sure, especially with what you guys are trying to accomplish from, getting on the podium to obviously you had all these goals in mind as far as setting state records, especially in the 4x4. I mean, when something like that happens, I mean, how tough is that to kind of have to reevaluate everything and to kind of adjust your mindset at that point?
Yeah, it was definitely difficult. I think the first day that the injury occurred, it was a lot of thoughts kind of racing through my brain. But with the help of my PT, we went over a lot of mental exercises that could kind of get me ready and realize that my body's still good and in shape, and that I can do the best of my abilities, which was probably the biggest part of the recovery instead of the physical part of it. But yeah, I just think talking through it and realizing that getting to the positive parts, not thinking about the negative parts, that's kind of what helped me the most.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I remember Bryce saying that he was pretty impressed with on that Friday for the prelims. Just your leg, the third leg there of the 4x1. I don't think he had expected you to give him to give it to him so close to the lead and everything. Did you kind of surprise yourself with that?
Actually, yeah, I mean, I was running through a lot of pain in that first race, but it definitely gave me the confidence to know that I can run at my full speed, and knowing that he saw me coming in at full speed and he felt confident that he could get out, the normal speed he does, because he's got a pretty decent start. That definitely helped me and gave me a little confidence moving forward to the next day.
Yeah, yeah. And let's talk about that last day. I know you did the 4x1 again that morning, but then you didn't. Were you pretty much in the tent the whole time from between then to the 4x4?
Yeah, I was resting up quite a bit. I maybe saw maybe 4 races overall the full day at state. I was resting, keep my leg up, doing everything I possibly could to make sure I could still run that 4x4.
Yeah. What's the biggest challenge there, especially when it comes to stretching? Because obviously you just don't go in there cold like that. But when you had to do some things to kind of loosen your hamstring and your legs up and everything, I mean, can you describe how painful it was?
Yeah, I mean, right before or during both days at the state, I had to get some treatment done in the training room. It's not a whole lot of stretching just because you don't want to overstretch that nerve. But yeah, I mean, even just the second day walking around, a few steps into the first jog, it's some pretty heavy pain and it's kind of hard to get through. But uh, knowing that the injury couldn't get worse was definitely helpful in knowing that you're just gonna run as hard as you can and it can't get worse.
Yeah, yeah. With all that said, I mean, you come to the 4x4 and you get. I think you were what the third leg, right? You were the guy. You were the
Yeah.
guy between Bryce and
Yes.
Valen. And I think you guys were in second at that point when Bryce got it to you. And I know Bryce was hurt and trying to struggling through the last 50 meters there. You could kind of tell that that groin was really kind of hurting a little bit. But
hmm
for you, what were you thinking during that lap? And was there a point where you could kind of lock in mentally and just kind of focus on the race and not the pain?
Actually, I was very confident going into the race that I was gonna give the best of my abilities. So watching Bryce come in, knowing that he dealt with an injury just as bad as mine, knowing that like he's giving it his all, I got to show up for my team and do what I do. So getting the baton, the first 100, obviously I felt the pain pretty bad, and back stretch still pretty painful. And then the mindset kind of kicked in of this might be my last race, so I just kind of have to give everything I got. I pain kind of went away, the adrenaline kind of kicked in, and I just pretty much gave the rest that I got.
Yeah, it definitely showed, man, because you gave the baton to Valen in the lead, and I guess the rest is, as they say, was kind of history there. But was that last 200 there? I mean, were you surprised at how much you were able to kind of push yourself and to be able to get past the kid from Cleveland?
Yeah, I definitely think so. I mean, if I were to say what I did to myself about a week ago when I first got injured, I would have been pretty proud or impressed with myself. So yeah, I think um, yeah, I'm pretty, I didn't expect much at the beginning of the week, so I think I'd say that was pretty good.
Yeah, yeah. And I know as soon as you were done, boy, You, I mean, it looked like it was like a gunshot, man. You just went straight down
Yeah.
to the ground. I mean, was it that bad? I mean, were you that was it that much pain that you were dealing with there?
Yeah, actually, I rewatched the video and you can see the exact kind of point where some of the adrenaline kind of wears off and then the injury kind of kicks back in and it's kind of shoots up my leg a little bit and I kind of have to go down a little bit.
Yeah, yeah. But I know you got up just in time for Valen coming around the bend and everything. Were you
Yeah.
determined to get up before then?
Yeah, I wanted to see kind of the rest of the race and enjoy the last kind of moments of track.
Yeah. It's kind of interesting because I think if for those that don't know, Cy was a pretty good soccer player for Santa Fe High, and I think you guys had a lot of expectations there too because I think you guys felt like you had a team that could compete for the 5A title and everything. And probably about halfway through the year, I think injuries. Obviously, it seems like that's a word that seems to get thrown out there a lot at Santa Fe High. You guys kind of had to deal with that, and you never quite recovered. What did you learn from that experience there from state soccer that maybe helped you, when you were dealing with kind of similar issues with track?
I just think any sports player with injuries, it's a lot of getting your physical body back in place, but also your mental state of mind because of sports psychology is plays a large role in a lot of sports activities. So kind of getting both in check and experience with both and getting both in check has definitely helped me with any injuries that I got more recently with track.
Yeah,
So that's nice.
for sure. And so I hope you don't mind. We'll pivot on that note to Ray Lee there because I think you can kind of share that from that experience too, especially the previous 2 years dealing with the stress fractures that you had to deal with. For those that don't know, you had stress fractures in both legs, right? One leg 1 year, the other the next, and it really kind of curtailed your ability to perform, especially at state. You kind of know a little bit what that frustration is like, especially coming into your senior year. What did that do for you as far as how you wanted to prepare, for your last chance on the track?
Yeah, I feel like dealing with injuries and knowing, like, how to prevent them is so hard, but this year especially, I just knew that, like, I did not wanna go into state track with, like, immense pain in my shins, so, like, me and my coaches, like, talked, and I did not do, like, nearly as much mileage. I mainly focused on, like, hurdles, sprinting, and just, like, making sure that my body was okay, and then about, like, halfway through the season, I started doing triple jump again, and I ended up, like, tweaking/spraining both of my ankles. So dealing with, like, my ankles at the end of the season was pretty hard, but it was not nearly as hard as, like, the previous years with my shins and everything.
Oh, you didn't even tell me that 2 weeks ago when it happened, huh?
No.
Was that something you're kinda keeping under wraps a little bit?
Yeah, I was trying to, like, not make it too big of a deal and, like, not, like, worry my coaches or anything, but it wasn't that bad, and as soon as, like, track stops, they both pretty much healed up, but yeah, it
Yeah,
was definitely a struggle mentally.
yeah. Um, what's that mental burden like? Because I'm sure even as you were going through the training in the spring, is there a part of you that's always in the back of your mind thinking, "Is this gonna happen again?"
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like every single time after a hard workout, I like get in my head and be like, "Oh, my shin kinda hurts, like, do I need to go get it checked out again?" It's just really mentally hard when I love running, but my body does not love running, and injuries is not something that yeah.
Is that hard, especially because you talk about the competitive part, and everybody I think knows, and even Joey talked about it last week that how much of a competitor you are, and when you can't quite reach maybe those standards that you had set, the first couple of years. I mean, how frustrating does that get? Because you feel like you're better than that, but yet at the same time, it's like you have to acknowledge a little bit that that's not the person you are now.
Yeah, it's extremely hard. I have a sports psychologist that I love more than anything who has helped me get through so much of that this year. And like anytime I'd be like, I'm not running as fast as I was like freshman year, she'd be like, so what sport are you doing in college? And I'd be like, swimming. So it was like mentally hard to be like, I'm not performing as I was like freshman, sophomore year. But I would just have to like take a step back and realize that I'm not running in college. And this sport I'm doing for my teammates, for my coaches, and honestly just to have, like, a fun last track season.
So with that said, you go into that last day. and obviously they loaded you up on a lot of stuff. It was almost like being a freshman or a sophomore again for you. Were you ready for that?
I don't know. I think at districts, my coach put me in 3 hurdles, 400, 800, and 4x4. And I was like, why are you doing that to me? And he was like, to prepare you for state. I didn't end up doing the 400, but I ended up doing the 3 hurdles and 800. And that kind of gave me confidence going into like state track. So I was definitely stressed out, but yeah.
Um, I know you've done it before where you've had to do one event so shortly after another, but when you have to run 2 8s, probably within about 90 minutes of each other, I think if my mental math is checking out, I mean that's not an easy thing to do. What's that challenge like when you have to do that? And it's not like you're just running an easy 8, in either one of those events.
Yeah, no, it was definitely difficult. I feel like the biggest thing was, like, I was just conserving my energy, like, the whole day. In the open 8, like, once I realized I was, like, securely in second, I was like, "Okay, it's not really worth trying to, like, completely burn myself out for first when I still have an 800, a 300, and a 400 to run." So, I got that one over with, and I, like, ran over to my coaches, and they're like, "Okay, put your legs up, get Gatorade, like, sit down, and then do, like, a light jog before your next race." So it was just, like, thinking about one race, not, like, all the races.
Yeah, yeah, and then obviously you did well in the 3, and then you come back in the 8, and um, did when you got the baton in the 8 in that 8 leg of the medley, and you saw how far Helen was, what's your first thought?
My first thought was, "Uh-oh, this is gonna go exactly how last year in the medley went." But I also just kept thinking, I was like, "I'm the fastest sprinter, like, I need to have a secure, like, calm first lap, not try to make up too much distance, and then the last lap, just give it everything."
It didn't seem like you. I mean, I think maybe you trimmed a little bit off that first lap, but it still seemed like Helen kind of had a pretty good gap on you there coming around the final turn. At what point? I mean, I think you're running pretty hard back by then, but was there ever a point where you were just like, I think I got a shot?
Okay, I did not think I had a shot up until the last, like, 50 meters of that race. The last, like, 50 meters, I was thinking, I was like I remember, like, previously my mom, like, that morning, I'd, like, woken up and checked the scores, and I was like, "Is there any way that we can still win this meet?" And my mom was like, "Okay, you guys are gonna have to win the 4x2, you're gonna have to win the medley, and you're gonna have to win the 4x4, and everyone is going to have to, like, place in their events." So I was thinking, I was like, "If we don't win this race, like, we are not going to win state track." So the last, like, 50 meters, I was like, "I have to do this. Like, it doesn't matter if I can't, I have to."
Um, and it was amazing. I mean, just even the last 20 meters. I mean, it still seemed like it was out of reach because you're still probably about a good 5 meters behind her and everything. Just talk about those last 10 15 meters that you had there that where you were make up that gap.
I think, like, that is when, like, pure, like, guts and, like, me realizing that that was my last 800 I was ever gonna run and just, like, wanting like, my coaches who I love so, so much, wanting them to, like, have a good show, like, have a good race, and just, like, do it for my coaches and my teammates and everything like that, and it was, like, pure guts. I do not understand how I did that or, like, my split was, like, 3 seconds faster than when I went in the open, like, I do not understand it.
I guess it's just one of those things you don't realize what you can do until you're forced to do it, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. I guess actually that's a good question for both of you there. Just talk about just kind of finding your finding something a little extra that maybe you didn't realize you had there in those situations.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think, like, state track especially is just such, like, a long and difficult weekend, and a lot of the times you have to, like, go to places or, like, do things that you do not think that you could have done. But, like, especially I feel like with teammates and coaches, like, supporting you, it makes it so much easier, and my teammates are like I love those girls so much, and they were so proud of me and, like, so happy that we were able to do that, and they'd done it previously in the 4x2, so I was like, "We have to do this for them." So, yeah.
Yeah, I think like especially in a state track where everything means a little bit more, you definitely end up pushing yourself a little bit more. There's just a little more emotion in it, and also with the relays, you're playing or you're running with teammates, so it's not just yourself, but you're running for the other people. So that definitely adds another aspect of like I'm not only doing it for myself, but just the team in general, especially running with the guys that I ran, it's, those guys are working their asses off, and I got to do the same. So.
Will, am I taking up too much time? Did you
No,
need to jump in here? Or are
no,
you perfectly happy just sitting there?
no. I'm like the sidekick on the talk show. I just sit here and nod and like maybe laugh every now and then. No, but no, Rayleigh, it reminds me of a story I heard about you during the state tennis tournament. How one of the players, he was actually our intern, Henry Kaufman, told me how when he was a kid, they had a race at the school where he was the fastest kid there, except for one person smoked him, and it was you. So you've always been like basically the fastest person at your school, haven't you?
I've always loved competing and love racing people, and especially when I get competitive, I'm pretty difficult to beat.
That's look. We all know what your plans are. You're going to Duke to swim, but Cy, what are your plans next? What's the next thing in your life?
Well, I'm headed off to Colorado University Boulder, so I think I'll definitely be doing some intermediate sports. Nothing D1 or anything like that, but I'd like to continue athletics and do as much as I possibly can.
It's
Give
a
me
really cool way to end your high school career, though. Just knowing you could rip your
Yeah.
hamstring right off the bone. You were doing that. It's a good way to
Yeah.
go.
Thank you. Yeah.
how the last couple of days been for you from that end? I mean, how much rest have you given it, and how's it feeling?
It's actually feeling a lot better now. I saw my PT just the day after, got another treatment done, and yeah, I just think the feeling of getting everything done and not having to worry about much it's feeling a lot better. So that's good.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Did you consider any other schools? I mean, did you want to continue playing athletically, whether it's soccer or track or whatever?
Early on, I thought about playing somewhere for soccer, but I think I kind of chose the route of playing high school instead of doing kind of club and stuff like that. And I also wanted to do track. So if I wanted to kind of continue doing soccer, I probably would have had to give up track, done some club stuff during the summer camps and things like that. But I kind of wanted to have more of a high school experience, enjoy running and enjoy playing soccer and also having fun with all my teammates. So
Yeah, especially when you look at that 4x4 team. I mean, yeah, all four of you pretty much uh, spent your entire track career together. Because I remember Bryce coming in from ATC, and he was at Santa Fe High the year you had to sit out and everything. But I mean, you guys trained together, you guys got to know each other, and the fact that you guys all ran together on that last race there. I mean, how special of a moment was that for you guys, especially after all, everything was done, and talking to me and standing there on the podium. I mean, what was that experience like for you guys afterwards?
it's probably one of the best kind of moments in my sports career. Just like the emotion of it. Those guys aren't just my teammates, but my best friends. All of them were going through stuff, whether it was coming from a race before or Bryce with his injury. And, before the race, it was just, everything you got. This is the last race we're ever going to run together. So it kind of meant a little bit more than just getting a medal. It meant kind of, the ending of the generation running at Santa Fe High, which was pretty awesome.
Yeah. Do you still wish you guys had been healthy? Because I know you guys wanted that 3:13.
Yeah, there may have been a chance that if we were fully healthy, maybe we cut it maybe a second off, maybe a little more. But I'm still happy with what we all did and what we accomplished. So I'm not gonna think about it too much.
Okay. Um, Rayleigh, I'll ask you that too, especially after what you did there, and then the fact that that really kind of got the ball rolling on that comeback that you guys made. At the end of the day, when you get that blue trophy, does this one feel a little bit more special than maybe some of the other ones? Because it seemed like, if I remember correctly, you guys kind of handled everybody, pretty easily, the last couple of years.
Oh, absolutely. I remember, Soph was someone who was asked that, and she was like, "Yeah, it definitely feels more rewarding when you actually have to, like, work for it," and when we won by 3 points, and, like, we did not think that we were going to win, and all of our coaches were like, "Guys, you're gonna have to, like, put everything." So, yeah, it was really rewarding, and I cannot believe track gave me, like, another special moment and memory that I'll always have.
What's that like? I mean, you mentioned it too about everything that you guys had to do, but that seems pretty daunting, especially when you're looking at a 37-point deficit at that point.
Yeah, absolutely. That was, a little bit like I was like, I don't think that we're gonna win." But all of my teammates did their jobs. Everyone was really supportive. Like, whenever we'd come back to the 10, we'd be like, "Oh, it's 10 points now. Oh, it's 2." Like, we just kept on, like, knocking it down and kept on, like, supporting each other and bringing each other up and making sure that we were all like cheering for someone if they were doing their event, or even if like they didn't do as well, just like being there for them and supporting them and just making it a true team sport and like everyone working together.
Raylee, you're heading off to one of the best swimming programs in the country, who also competes in one of the most competitive conferences in the country. You have Virginia, Stanford, Cal, all in the same conference. You're going to be competing against future Olympians or current Olympians. What's the next step going to be like for you, do you think?
I feel like that will be a massive adjustment and just like something that I'm gonna have to like my first year just like take in and be like, it's okay if I'm not like competing with the Olympians, but just that I'm like swimming in the same like area and like I'm swimming at the same level as them is a massive accomplishment. And yeah, that'll be a big adjustment.
Did you go to a game at Cameron Indoor? Sneak like maybe attend a game this last year?
No, I didn't, but I ended up going to the Final Four, and that was probably one of the, like, most heartbreaking games I've ever watched, but it was so cool, and I'm so excited to watch basketball at Duke.
You missed Cooper
What is
Flag
this?
by 1 year.
I know.
One more. Geez, Will, it seems like everybody that we know is going to the Final Four except for us.
I know, right? Yeah, our intern went to the Final Four. Rayleigh's at the Final Four. Yeah.
Yeah, don't tell us you went to the Final Four side because we're really going to be pissed
Yeah.
about this.
Oh
Yeah,
man, I wish that would have been a blast.
I guess. Well, I don't know. Will, should we put him on the spot? Because we kind of know there's a tie in between these two. Besides
Yeah,
just
do
the
it.
track.
I'll leave that right up to you, brother. You do it.
Alrighty. So, you guys were each other. Were you okay? Whose prom date? Was it you? Was that you her prom date for senior prom? Is that how that worked, or was that for each other in both instances at each school?
Actually, we went to each other's prom, so
Okay.
yeah.
Wow, that's pretty that's pretty impressive. What was
Yeah.
that experience like? So first, who asked who?
I actually asked. I made a sign and asked.
Don't tell me you did it during a track meet, did you?
No.
Yeah, take us through that. What happened?
Yeah.
That's part of the pressure point. This is the
I was
toughest
going to say
question
Capital
I've
City
ever
would have been perfect.
Well, actually, I made the sign with one of my friends, and then we went and presented it to Raylee at her house.
That's pressure, man. You think running in the state finals is pressure? That's pressure right there.
Yeah, that one might have been worse than the 4x4.
Yeah, right. Like the pain of maybe not having that work out is worse than having it ripped right off the bone. Yeah.
Yeah.
What was that like for you, Raylee? You've been kind of quiet on this year.
It was very sweet. The sign actually did involve track. It was about the 400. So yes, it was very sweet. My entire family was really happy, and it was a ton of fun.
He didn't like challenge you to a race, did he?
No, that would have been fun.
Yeah, maybe that's next.
Maybe that's. Could you have taken him, Raylee?
I think maybe if I had like a 300 lead, maybe.
Well, with the way he's feeling right now, you might have a decent shot.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
What was that experience like? I mean, I'll be honest. I never went to prom. I'm sure Will probably did. He was probably the homecoming king. So
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
but what's that experience? What's that experience like?
It was
I know it's
super fun, especially like senior year, like having a day. It was definitely a lot of fun. It makes it more fun.
Yeah, it was a blast. I mean, we all went to dinner and did everything you do for prom, so that was just kind of a fun experience.
You guys go?
Where did we go? We went to Santa Cafe.
Yeah, prom and it's all different. Back in the day, we had to wear those tuxedos and all that stuff. Now it's pretty loose. Like my kids, when they went through the prom thing, it was just almost like a social gathering than the old standard stuffy. Man, it was worse way back in the day. Oh,
Yeah, I think the fun part of it is just kind of doing all the stuff around it. The dance is always, going to be the dance, but doing the stuff around it is kind of what makes it special. So that was fun.
Yeah,
sure.
for sure. I guess the other thing here too is Raylee, you just officially graduated over the weekend. You guys had your ceremony. I think was it Friday?
Yeah, Friday.
Yeah, and I know this week is going to be your turn, Si. What's it like when you kind of turn that page?
It's going to be pretty interesting. My final day of school was yesterday, so I got everything kind of out of the way and graduation is Thursday, so I'm looking forward to it. But at the same time, it's kind of like remembering all the things that I went through is kind of it's like, wow, it's kind of over. Kind of crazy.
Yeah. Thursday morning, the salutatorian at Santa Fe High is actually a close friend. Eddie Moore, the photographer for the Albuquerque Journal. His son is salutatorian. I know he's been working on that speech for weeks. So
really,
I almost want to show up just to see what he says.
I know. I'm interested to see what he says. That'll be pretty good.
Yeah.
Hey, Raylee, did you speak? Because I figured you got to be up there.
No, I got athlete of the year for St. Mike's, so that was pretty cool. But I feel like I was like third in line for like salutatorian, valedictorian, but it was still pretty cool.
Yeah, James. I know when James graduated from Los Lunas, you had to give a big speech there, wasn't it?
Yeah, hardly. I fell asleep in the middle of my graduation.
James Barron and I were carrying a solid 2.6 GPA into graduation.
Yeah, I was at least 3.0. Okay, give me a little credit.
That's why we became sports writers and not other stuff. We had to.
Yeah. We were smart enough to know we weren't that smart.
Right. Exactly. Well, you two, it's been fun. I really appreciate you coming on here. And I'm sorry about James putting you on the spot right at the end like that. We talked about that beforehand. Like, I'm not going to ask that question.
Yeah, I couldn't help it, man. I thought it was a nice way to tie things up. So
yeah, and
it wasn't done intentionally, by the way. It just happened to be just coincidental.
Yeah. But it was great watching the two of you end your high school careers the way it was, and really look forward to what comes next for you. And, you know, it seems like the end of something big, but really it's just the beginning of something even bigger for the both of you. So it'll be
definitely.
Yeah.
Good luck with your college endeavors, regardless of what you guys do and everything. And I'm nothing but continued success. I think you guys have already done a lot. Hopefully, there's more to do for you guys.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
You're very welcome.
We'll take a short break. James and I will come back. We'll finish this podcast up. But thanks you again. Thanks you two.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, of course. Thank you.
All right, James. Man, I appreciate you carrying that interview for me, because the only thing I knew about those two was their names. Actually, Raylee, I knew.
Well, you knew a little bit more than about Raylee. Come on.
So I when I texted you guys privately during the podcast, I felt like Ed McMahon during the Tonight Show, where you just sit there in the corner and like, laugh every now.
I didn't even get a laugh out of you, man. Out of anything. You were just you look more. It was more AJ Hawk than it was Ed McMahon.
Yeah, I was checking ESPN, the app, just to see what the scores were. Those sort of thing. But
dude, is anybody playing at this point? I mean, obviously, I know people are going to see this later, but it's barely noon. I don't think anything's happening in the world of sports right now.
Trust me, I was looking for stuff while the two of you were talking.
Cricket.
But it's not entirely true. Like, look, it's the end of high school sports season, which means two things: everything's over, and then everyone's getting fired or quitting. So there's a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes.
Yeah, there is. I mean obviously, I think the rumor mill right now is that there's a bit of a house cleaning going on at Las Vegas Robertson. I think you kind of alluded to it in your baseball story there with Robertson, that Leroy Gonzalez was more likely than not coming back, and it appears like that is the case. But we're also hearing rumors that they've also decided to replace their athletic director and relieve Juan Carlos Fulgenzi of his position. We'll obviously have to check into that, but it sounds like obviously there's a lot happening at Robertson, but I think people were kind of expecting it anyhow.
Yeah, apparently it's all over Las Vegas. Highlands is the athletic director. They fired the baseball coach. The basketball coach was gone.
Yeah, the football coach, because he's also the baseball coach, is now gone as well, and obviously the tennis coach is now gone too, because I think people forget Juan Carlos is.
Plus, I'm not sure they've actually made the permanent move for basketball yet either. So there's all that.
Yeah, that's true.
The picture of stability is somehow West Las Vegas.
I know. Yeah, who would have thought that, man? But hey, that's.
If Leroy is gone, too bad for him. Like, he's such a good guy. He's been through a lot of health issues.
Certainly has.
and he's done a lot. He's won a couple state championships for football. He's been to the championship game 7 times with the football team. Baseball team, he's taken him to the championship game 5 times now. So
And
he's
3
had a lot
times,
of
right?
Yeah, he's won in 2019 and then last year.
Last year.
Uh,
In
so-
2021, right?
I think it was. I forget. I know he beat West Las Vegas both times.
Yeah, maybe that's what I was thinking. Yeah, maybe that's right. So
Yeah, but just feel bad for the guy. He's been through a lot. I know he's hoping to go through his surgeries this summer, and knock on wood, it's the case. Rooting for him regardless. But
yeah, absolutely. But
and Juan Carlos Fulgenzi, who's never met an argument he didn't like, which I loved about Juan Carlos. He's just a really good dude, but man, he's you can tell it's wherever he went, there was somebody after him. So
yeah, definitely, man. I think he's one of the good guys out there. Although I'm sure there are plenty of people, obviously, in Vegas that probably feel otherwise. And
yeah,
it'll be interesting to see who they get for those positions and where things go. Because let's be honest. I think Las Vegas in general doesn't exactly have the greatest reputation in the world, especially when you see a lot of the changes. I mean, I think West is probably the more stable school between the two right now. But you look at some of the people that they've brought in to fill those spots when that have opened up, and you kind of realize, man, that they don't. It's not like they're getting the cream of the crop in terms of candidates.
yeah. Well, so that'll be something we'll all need to keep an eye on. I'm sure there'll be head coaching positions changing all over the place. Just over the weekend, Ian Ferris, Santa Fe High coach,
Right.
who had a petition circulating from the parents, getting his ouster, actually stepped down.
The dreaded petition, man. That always seems like the surefire sign that you're not welcome there.
Yeah, I went on change.org to see who had signed it, and there was definitely some names of the players, the parents on there who would come after him, which is
I'm surprised you don't have that paper in your hand, like right now, just showing everybody who signed it.
I bookmarked it, and I did take photos of it just in case they erased that page. But yeah, there's although like what our assistant managing editor Brian Barker, his son played for San Diego. He did not sign it, so his name was not on there. I did look. I checked that list twice to make sure he wasn't on there.
Yeah, I'm sure Brian loves that you brought that up, right?
Yeah. Santa Fe High, which I've always felt, Santa Fe High is a baseball program that it should be better than. It's not to say that Ian did a good job, but they've got one of the best facilities in all of 5A.
No, they do.
And this is coming from a parent whose kid played at the 5A level, and their facilities are better than anything you have in Albuquerque. And just the fact that they've struggled for so long, just to put a competitive team in the field tells you a lot about. Maybe it's just the culture there. Maybe it's the school. I don't know. But maybe a change was in order. I don't know. But Ian always treated us fairly, and I had nothing bad to say about him either.
Yeah, and I think he does a lot of good. I mean, especially for the baseball community. I mean, with the academy that he and Nick Salazar, the Capital baseball coach, I think they've given an avenue for a lot of kids that want to play baseball, and those that really don't want to go all the way down to Albuquerque to visit one of those academies. To kind of work on their game. They've got an outlet here to do that. So I think they do a lot for the baseball community, and it's just a shame that they couldn't quite put, or at least Ian hasn't been able to quite put things together. I think Nick's kind of in a similar situation, but I think the biggest issue I think you find with both of those programs is just especially in 5A baseball is pitching, and that's something that you just don't have enough of here. I mean, there just aren't enough big arms like you do down in Albuquerque. I mean, you look at like events. I mean, you look at the championship game at Sandy and El Dorado, 2 teams that are in Capitals and Santa Fe's district. I mean, how do you compete with that if you don't have the arms to be able to do that?
Yeah, it is definitely a difference. It's not so much a climate thing as much as it is just availability. In baseball, you could talk all day about the influence a club has had on certain sports, but I think baseball, volleyball, and soccer are the 3 sports at the high school level where the club level has had a huge impact on the quality of play that you see. And look, if you want to play baseball at the 5A level and soccer and volleyball, you have got to play club.
You have to, yeah.
Because it's no longer the olden days where you just show up and play for a team once the season starts. If you're doing that, you're going to finish 5-19, and you're going to have your coach's name thrown on a petition to get removed. So those things are going to happen. But Yeah, it's too bad. Some good coaches, some good people that you and I have both known, and just out of a job, and so we'll have new faces, new names once the school year starts again.
Yeah, it's well. I guess I'll ask. I guess maybe we should finish with this. I mean, what are you going to remember, especially maybe from the last couple of weeks from the high school season? Because we're kind of in mourning of that too. Because the weekend, this past weekend was the last games that we had to cover, and obviously the last games of the high school season and everything. So obviously, maybe a moment of reflection there for you if you want to do that.
Yeah, man, I think the thing I'll remember probably the most, or well, it's probably a couple things, was Robertson's basketball team
Hmm.
just sailing along, just playing so well, and then they have this situation with their coach,
Yeah,
James Branch, and it looked like that team had imploded, and they somehow turned it around. They internalized everything, and they bounced back, won the state tournament. Didn't win the state tournament. They dominated everyone on the
they
way.
did. Yeah,
And then the St. Mike's football team, just watching them roll to another championship and knowing what they have coming back, that's a team that could easily three-peat this coming fall. But just the way the season ended on a gutsy play, kind of not a fluke play, but just a gutsy call for involving a player who might actually wind up being our overall male athlete of the
exactly.
year. Those are the things I'll remember. So yeah, just a lot. How about you?
Well, I think, boy, you stole a lot of my moments there too. I think also, what I'll remember is just how the unfortunate situation that happened at Santa Fe High with football.
Yeah,
The hazing incident there. And it kind of led to the eventual resignation of Andrew Martinez. And another one of those guys, we talked about before, just
really good guy.
a guy that he gave it his best, and I think he did a really good job with that program, and getting kids to buy in, and really selling the program hard to a community where, I mean, let's be honest, I mean, Santa Fe High football, I mean, it used to be synonymous with winning, and now for the last 40 years or so, people expect the worst out of it, and when you're dealing with that backdrop and trying to get these kids to kind of believe in themselves and to compete every week, it's quite the challenge, and it was kind of unfortunate to see that for him, and hopefully we'll see him on the sidelines at some point, whether it's next year or the year after. But that's a guy that I think did a lot, and probably wasn't appreciated enough for it.
Yeah. Well, now we move into the summer months, which means Fuego. The Fuego start for us. The team reports. What is today's Tuesday? They report Thursday. They'll be practicing their spring training. Is basically Saturday, which I was told today. Part of the spring training, and you'll love this, is they got a tarp to cover the infield at Fort Marcy because they lose probably 4 or 5 games a year to just
Because of the field, right? It just falls
if it
apart
rains, it turns into
every.
a
Yeah,
kitty litter box.
you spit on it and it just turns into quicksand, right?
Yeah, and so they got a tarp. The president of the league told me he found a tarp from a team in Kansas City, and they're shipping it here right now. But part of spring training is they need to teach the players how to roll this thing out and then put it on the field and then cover it with tires to make sure it doesn't blow away.
Tires.
So, I cannot wait for that. That's going to be some of the best photos of the year for us, is them practicing rolling the tarp out at Fort Marcy. But of course, they're putting in a 30-foot wall out in right field, which to me is the most amazing thing, because Santa Fe is a city that despises change.
Yes, they
Talking
do.
about putting in a 30-foot wall at Fort Marcy. I don't know how they pulled that one off, but
I think it's going to have to be wooden, and they're going to have to let all of the all of the birds be able to nest in them while they're at it.
well, technically, I did ask him that too. I was like, "This is a solid structure." He said, "No, it's essentially like backdrop netting, but they're going to put a giant sign on there, the sponsor." And I can't remember the name. I think it's a turquoise. The turquoise. It's not the turquoise monster, but it's something involving turquoise, like the
Of
turquoise
course,
wall. Or
everything involves turquoise with the Fuego, right?
yeah.
Even though their colors are actually what, orange and red and black.
Well, They
But
should have. When they switched to turquoise uniforms about 7-8 years ago, the team went
Yeah.
right in the tank. They've been terrible ever since. The worst idea they ever made was switching team colors. Should have just stuck with the brick red and the black and the orange. But no.
They clearly did not do a lot of study into that when
Yeah.
they decided to include turquoise in the color scheme.
Yeah, we could do an entire podcast about the history of the Santa Fe Fuego uniforms. the year they ordered the black jerseys and they showed up and it was the wrong color.
Yes.
It was like Columbia blue instead of turquoise, and they couldn't use them. And then the numbers didn't match the previous uniforms, and then they have that computer system for point streaks set up. So where if the numbers don't match, then it throws the whole computer system off because then they don't know which player. It's like, golly, just so many little stumbling blocks. But anyway, Fuego baseball season is here. Thankfully for me, because I love baseball. But so while you're off at the Indianapolis 500, I'll be watching the Fuego. So eat your heart out, James Barron.
Oh, I'll be back in time to catch the Fuego.
Yeah.
I'll probably end up getting the season opener story anyway.
Season opener is a Wednesday night. It's a little over a week away.
Welcome back, James. Now you got to go see the Fuego.
Yeah, remember last year's season opener? They're playing that team from Nebraska, and their starting pitcher had his teeth caved in. Remember
That's
that?
right.
They had a ground ball back to the mound. Of course, there's a Fort Marcy hop because it's like you're hitting off a basically like a giant mess of lumpy hard grass.
Yeah.
Ball hit him right in the mouth and knocked all his front teeth backwards. Not out.
Oh.
Them all back. And so
that's a welcome sight, man.
Yeah, they drive an ambulance onto the field, and I'm texting my designer this game that was supposed to be over with by 9:30 is going to go to about 11.
Yeah.
Yeah. So good times.
Yeah, and I'm sure the people the people with the city were really happy that an ambulance drove up on all that grass, right?
Probably improved it though. Really.
Maybe.
Couldn't have gotten much worse.
Yeah, they probably flattened out some of those grooves that are there, right?
Like, you know what? We should have this ambulance come out here sooner. How do we not think of that before?
I guess more guys need to get their teeth knocked out, huh?
Right. All right. Well, that'll do it for this week. James Barron's going on vacation, so all your hate mail to James could come to me for the next few days.
That's right.
Yeah, it'll be good times. But thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you in a week.
See it.